Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Failures to Fortunes podcast, the show where we fearlessly dive into the untold stories of real estate investors' greatest setbacks and how they turned those failures into resounding successes. I'm your host, Kate Berry, and we're talking with real estate investors across the country to learn exactly how and why they failed and how they took that failure and turned it into a powerful lesson for their business. So come along with me, Kate Berry, on this transformative journey from failure to fortune. I invite you to join our supportive community where together we can inspire, educate, and motivate each other to achieve all of our real estate investing goals. Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Failures to Fortunes podcast. I'm your host, Kate Berry, and on this show, we dive fearlessly into the journeys of real estate investors and agents who have turned their failures into fortunes. We are here today with Kyler Jordan. He is an investor and works at Nova House, which is a really cool, interesting foray into the vacation rental world of real estate. So we're so excited to have you here, Tyler.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us.
It's exciting. Martin recorded an episode with you and I got filled with all that jealousy. I was like, why aren't I on this? So I'm excited to be here now and be chatting away.
Okay, good. All right. Well, you're in the hot spot then.
Fantastic.
Let's dive right in. I want to hear how you got started in real estate investing, what drove you into the industry, when did you join? Tell us that story.
Yep. For sure. I was in a very privileged situation when I was younger, where I was introduced to real estate in my early teens by my father. He was running a successful motorcycle company back in Australia. And on the side, he was buying and selling real estate, whether it be retail spaces, whether it be single family homes, fix and flips, renovations, even some smaller office buildings, things like this. So I kind of got that intro to it just through being around it pretty early on.
That's amazing. That's a great way to learn. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I bring her with me everywhere because I just want her to be in that world.
Yeah, 100%. I'm looking forward to my future kids growing up in the construction sites, if you will.
Yes. Right, because real estate never stops, right? There will never not be a need for real estate. And, I did not grow up in that world. So when I entered the real estate world when I was 30, it was all brand new to me. I didn't even really understand what the word equity meant. You were growing up in this world. Tell us what happens next.
For sure. So I was going to school like any normal teenager was. And when I was around 15, I got much more interested in the world of real estate, but also in the development and construction side of it, on how these properties actually come to life from nothing, how it all happens. And I grew up around big diggers and bulldozers and all these types of big pieces of machinery. And I was like, you know what, I just love machinery, and I'm really interested and intrigued by real estate and the whole process of it. And I kind of just dived right in. So I started with a company called Unicivil back home in Australia. And yeah, that's kind of where I got my career started there, doing civil construction all up and down the east coast of New South Wales on Australia.
Wow, that's great. And so you left high school, and was that hard?
I did. It was at the time very hard. I look back and I'm concerned at how easily my parents let me do that.
I can see that though. If they were real estate investors, entrepreneurs, I kind of have the same kind of view about school myself. It's like, what are you really learning there?
Yeah. Well, in today's day and age, I agree. As of a decade ago or even 2 decades ago, it's probably a bit of a different sentiment.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I dropped out. I dropped out when I was 16 years old. So I was in grade 10. I wasn't full-time with civil construction at that point. So I actually dropped out to work in a fast food restaurant where I was getting full-time hours and then transitioned as quickly as possible into the civil construction world. So I was doing that then for, on and off for about 7 years.
Wow.
And we were doing everything from single family homes all the way up to high-rise buildings, multiple story basements for high rises, government contracts. We were doing things all over across the whole range of size. So it was good for experience on that side of things as well. Just being there and being involved with the whole process. So like for me today, being in button-up shirts and dress pants and nicely looking boots and things like
Yeah.
that is
And
very
doing
uncomfortable.
podcasts.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable for me because most of my experience is like blisters on your hands and running around job sites and yelling at people and telling them
Right.
what needs to go where and that kind of thing. So it's nice though to have that confidence in my corner when I'm
Yeah.
going into these meetings with suit and tie people, if you
Sure.
will.
Yeah, you've got that hands-on experience. I mean, when after the 7 years, is that when you transitioned into sales, or how did you get into doing the
For
construction?
sure.
You are building, obviously, you're building the real estate, but you're not necessarily investing in the real estate. You're not
Hmm.
you're getting paid for your labor,
Hmm.
compensated for your hours, trading
Hmm.
hours for dollars, time
Hmm.
for dollars. But now you're in the investment side, which is putting up risk, sales. It's strategizing, deal analyzing. It's a whole different beast. So how did you get into that?
Yeah, 100%. So I have a bit of a unique way that I got into it, and it was I started traveling. I started traveling the world, and I wanted to be doing real estate developments and traveling the world at the same time.
Mhm.
And I got 100 people that were like, "That's not how that works. That's not how it happens. You can't do that." On and on.
Oh,
And I
I
was
love
like,
when
"I'm
people
going to
say
do it
that.
then."
Yes.
So that's exactly what I did. I started doing developments of small multi-family, duplexes and things like that. And I was doing it fully remote. So
Wow.
properties that
Nice.
I've never seen and properties that I will see that are going from land acquisition through construction and development all the way through to a final product, leasing
Yeah.
them out for a year or two and then selling them. All the whilst I'm traveling and doing whatever I want and managing these things from the phone and from emails and from,
Yeah.
video calls and things like that. And I realized very quickly that A, it's possible. B, there are so many ways in real estate to get in compared to other
Yes.
industries. Whereas in other industries, it's you have to put your CV in, you have to speak to the boss, and you have to get hired.
Sure.
Whereas in real estate, it's like, do you want to put 10% down? Sure,
Yes.
there's
Do
a way
you
to do
have
that.
money?
Do you want to put no money down and you have no money in your bank account? Sure, there's a way to do that. Do you have $10 million dollars
It's so
and you want to
true.
just do the whole thing in equity?
Yeah,
Sure, there's a way to do
sure.
that. And it's
It
so
is a
wild
very
that like
yes,
you
yes
look at this,
environment.
yeah, yeah, it's just like it's an industry where that I've found you make up the rules.
Yes,
It seems bonkers, but you do. It's just whatever you want to do, you can make it happen. And it's just like in somewhere, somehow, there's going to be a rule that's, oh, yeah, that kind of works what I want. And then you like find another one. You're like, oh, that kind of works as well. And then you can bend
yes.
them all together. And
Wow.
it's very interesting how real estate works. And I think that's my favorite part about it.
Yes. Well, I mean, what you did is you make it sound so easy, right? You just buy
Yeah.
properties, they cash flow, you're traveling, you're emailing. But we know that finding deals like that, it doesn't just come across your desk. So how are you finding these deals, sourcing the deals, and,
Mhm.
and what got your mindset to change?
Mhm. In terms of sourcing, the deals come from the team that you have. So I'm not an expert in sourcing deals. I never have been, and I never will be. I
Mhm.
don't want to ever be, actually.
Nice.
um,
Yes.
but the people that I have on my team are. So the way that works is back in Australia, even with us at the Nova House. For instance, we're doing developments in Costa Rica this year, and
Mhm.
everyone's like, "Wow, how are you doing developments there and finding these deals?" And it's like, "Well, I'm not, but I do find the people who know the most about the country, who have all the connections, who are the most well, they have the best
They're
reputation in
in
the
it.
country and the most well connected.
Yes.
Those are the people that I'm doubling down on because they have the answers and they know where's best and they know the people to work with. They
Yeah.
know how to get everything done. And that theme of team, that's fun. I'm going to
A
coin that.
team
The
of
theme of
two.
team
I love
is
that.
essentially what I've built my whole life on and am continuing to do so.
I love that. The theme of team, know what you're good at, put people in the right places, the right people in the right places.
Mhm.
And I think what you touch on that is so important is having that niche market understanding of boots on the ground. You cannot, I think, get the same amount of data from a spreadsheet or looking at just, air DNA or something like that. You've got
100%.
to know people that are actually in it, doing it, living it, breathing it, because that
Mhm.
story can be a little more detailed, and those details matter. in real estate.
100%. Yeah, it very often comes up as well. I mean, it's so often that you see things online and you look at a listing or you're looking at a property and then you go down there and it's beautiful and it's tropical and it's so secluded and beautiful and you get down there and it's like on a highway or a
Right.
freeway and you're like, that wasn't in the pictures.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's yeah, there's a lot of marketing that goes into it that you need to be able to look around,
Yes.
and that only gets done when you're on the ground
Yeah.
or have the right people on the ground.
That's right. And so the deals that you started, are they similar to the type of deals you're doing now, which is the short-term rental play?
No, the deals that I've done in the past are very boring. They're about as boring as it possibly gets. I
Buy and
have
hold,
long-term
multifamily?
buy and hold developments. So I'm doing build and hold, if you will.
Build and hold.
And there's nothing sexy about them. They're usually 4 bedroom, 2 bathroom, or 4 bedroom, 3 bathroom duplexes. They're
Mhm.
being rented out to long-term tenants,
Mhm.
starting on a 6 month lease. Once they've proved themselves, you're then moving them on to yearly leases. There's nothing sexy about it whatsoever.
But
But it pays the bills, and it's the easiest thing to build remotely, and it's the easiest
right.
thing to find expertise in. There is no shortage of products out there that are just being copy and pasted around the country.
Yes, I think that's such a great point. I think what you're saying is you are looking for the lifestyle to be able to travel, work remotely, and when you want to do something like that, you've got to take on something that is less risk. Maybe
Hmm.
it's not as hot, but if it's getting you your goals of if it's cash flowing a little bit to at least pay for itself and it's appreciating, that's
Hmm.
something that you can relax a little bit on.
Hmm.
But if you're doing something a little more complicated, like the short-term rental market, you've got to
Hmm.
be maybe a little more tuned in.
For sure. Yeah. And it's, you know what it is for as well, is I think it's a very vital starting point.
Mm,
And I think it's a vital starting point, not just because it's a lower cost and things like that, but because of stress and organization. So for me, doing these developments at the time, I was like, this is so unbelievably stressful. And
mm,
there's so much work that goes into it. And there's so many moving parts. And it was
right.
just, it was almost overwhelming. And now I look at it and I'm like, what was I ever thinking? That's
Right.
pathetic. But without those experiences that got a little bit easier and a little bit less stressful, it was too late. I already was losing my hair, but it
Yeah.
is what it is. Once they sort of started compounding and they've allowed me to get to the place now where I'm like, okay, I understand the levels or have some idea of the levels of stress that I'm going to continue to be walking into and how things need to be organized and managed, because we're not living on site. Even though that's how they do construction in Bali. I don't know if you've ever been there. They live on site and we are not. So a lot of the times we're managing things remotely.
Sure. Right. I think what you're saying about strategy and having your right mindset, right? It's so important. In real estate, it can be so all-encompassing. It can be overwhelming, especially if you're taking on something that requires a lot of moving pieces, a lot of moving parts. And I think going back to your theme of team, can you tell us more about how
I'm
you
so happy
joined a
about that.
team? Join a team? Did you start a team? How did you find the
Mhm.
team? Tell us how you got into that
For
group.
sure. I joined a team when I first got into civil construction when I was a teenager. I
Mhm.
joined Unicivil and I was pretty quickly put into a position of managing other people and managing sites myself.
Yep.
So I was kind of thrown into that position and had the chance to, know what it was like to be in a team and also lead a team without taking on any of the risk. And I think that was a huge stepping stone for me is that my boss, is an incredible mentor to me and is still to this day one of my best friends. I hold him in such high regard. His name's Tom. He always said to me, he's like, you're in a position where I want to give you everything and you can trial and error everything with no risk.
Hmm.
So I'll take on all the burden if things work out. If you want to make
Wow.
decisions, you want to do this, you want to expand this, you want to take this job, you want to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you do it. You don't have any financial stake in it or whatever it be or whatever it might be. But if it goes wrong, you don't have any risk either.
Right.
I think that was a really important part for me and taught me the skills without a lot of the stress.
Yes.
And once I moved away from that career and moved into doing things myself, I knew that I was never going to do this by myself. nor do I ever want to.
Right.
So it was immediately building that team. And that's what I've done. And I think that it's you're going to build a team whether you want to or whether you don't want to. You're going to build one because people are everything. You know what I mean? Like you can't
Right.
have a business without customers, and customers are people. You can't have a product for your business because products are built by people,
Yes.
and everything that you do is going to be people focused in
Yes.
some way. So you're going to build a team regardless. And what I did, and are continuing to triple down on team.
Now, is there so many skills that go into real estate? You have analytics, so analyzing data.
Mhm.
There's having a bit of context, sense of history of the market, but people skills. So having both is kind
Mhm.
of a rare quality trait. And I
Mhm.
think it's interesting I talk with a lot of real estate investors, and many of them didn't go to college, dropped out of high school, or quit their job, or never really had a traditional job. And do you have any regrets about dropping out, or what is your perspective? If you were looking back on yourself today, what would you say to yourself?
I would say drop out sooner if I was looking back.
Yeah,
I'm
I love that.
I'm not anti-school. I'm anti doing what isn't right for you.
Mm,
So when we sort of boil it down, it's what is school? School is education.
yeah,
And what is education? Well, you can't put a blanket statement on what education is. Because
absolutely.
to me, education wasn't maths and algebra and English and geography and et cetera, et cetera. Education to me was what I cared about was people skills, real estate, machinery,
Yeah,
construction, money, obsessed with
yeah,
money since forever. It's all of these things are what I want to be educated about.
nice.
So for me, I left education, and I'm saying that with air quotes, and moved into education, but
Yes,
the education that I chose.
yes.
And I think that education looks different for everyone. And it's I don't regret it at all. In fact, I would double down on it even harder had I, done it again.
Wow, I love what you just said. And thank you so much for sharing that, because I think a lot of people listening are interested in getting into real estate, want to do so because they do want to change the situation that they're in. Because if
Mm,
the W-2 job is not fulfilling to them, if they're looking for more freedom, more time with their family, more ability to travel, whatever their personal consideration may be, I think a lot of people are attracted to real estate because of the life that you can choose for yourself. There are so
right.
many avenues within real estate to be successful. And if you can have great people skills, know how to network, be willing to think outside the box, be willing to
Mhm.
go against the grain a little bit because it's what feels right to you, I think that really will speak to a lot of people listening right now.
100%. Yeah, I agree. I would say that it is a very sexy industry, and it's very easy to get lured into it. And I wish somebody had told me when I was a teenager that you can have all the things you're dreaming about in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that someone always made the disclaimer of 5 years,
5 years.
because nothing, especially in real estate, if you're
Yes.
developing, you're looking at 12, 24, 36 months of development. Then you got to stabilize the asset. If you're buying something that's unstable, like there's so many barriers to getting to that sexy part of the
Yeah.
industry, but it's there. And
Yeah.
it's there at a level that is unlike any other industry, but it
Mm-hmm.
just takes longer to get there. And like real estate's the ultimate delayed gratification game.
Totally.
And
It is get rich
yeah.
slow. That's what my first mentor told me. It's get rich slow. But you know what? I said, well, it's still get rich. I'll take
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Get wealthy, build wealth. I think too, within those 5 years, yes, you're waiting on the market to do its thing. The market can also change, and you can go through something unexpected and have
Mhm.
to learn from your mistakes, pick up the
Yeah.
pieces. Did you experience any bad deals in your investing?
Well, I don't know if it's a bad deal, but one thing that you just said then is, the market can change. And I definitely experienced that.
Mhm.
So one of my deals, I got into it with a variable rate construction loan and then mortgage. And I
Mhm.
started when rates were around 3%.
Mhm.
And then over that Everything was like positively cash flowed. As soon as I was about to start renting it out, everything was like, wow, I'm going to be making all this money. And then within 12 months, I'm looking at 7+% interest.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, this thing that was supposed to be paying me that I've been waiting on for years and years is now taking more of my money and more of my
Yes.
money and more of my money. And there's definitely a lot of scenarios. I think of it very much like hiking. And if
Mhm.
you've ever been hiking, you've probably experienced a false summit. And a false summit is when you're walking up this hill and you're looking at the top and you're looking at the top for
Yeah.
hours and you get to the top. And as you get to the top, you like start, cresting that
Yes,
hill. And then you
there's
realize that wasn't the top at all. And the top is another 2 peaks away. And you're like, oh, that's defeating. And
yes,
that's kind of what real estate is in a lot of ways, except for every false peak that you get to, you're also increasing your net worth. You're
yes,
also increasing, how much collateral you have for the next deals. You're increasing everything for every false peak or what
yes.
feels like a failure. You're
Yes.
increasing in some
It's so
way.
you're so far ahead from where you came.
Yeah.
And you've gone through experiences that have taught you and built your skills and built your networking. Through every deal, you're still working with a team on that other side too. You're working with the buyers, the sellers,
Hmm.
attorneys, lenders,
Hmm.
inspectors, appraisers, other investors, partnerships. Like the people network can really start to
Hmm.
build quickly. So even if a deal goes wrong, I think you've got to always think in the greater context, right? 5 years it can seem it's all relative. In real estate,
Yeah.
5 years is nothing. Real estate, you're thinking on 30 years. I'm thinking generations down the road building wealth. So if you think, okay, 5 years in the grand scheme is not very much to put in to
Oh,
have
not at all.
long-term
Hmm.
benefits, you've got to, I think that's a great advice for anyone listening. You're starting out right now, day one, just listening to this, you want to get invested, put out a 5 year plan and have yourself enough backup. If you have to stay in your job now and you do what you got to do, you have to make some sacrifices, right? I
Yeah.
mean, were there sacrifices that you had to make in your first couple of years of getting to where you are now?
I would argue there's more sacrifices I'm making today than I ever have. And it's continued to feel that way.
Interesting.
I
Tell me more about that.
I think it's the more that you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Mhm.
And when you start off, you're like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice however many years of savings to put a down payment on a house and get this going. And then you start learning more and more about real estate and deals and how things
Mhm.
work. And you're like, oh wow, if I like went all in on this, it's going to take longer. It's going to take a while, but it's going to set me up for life.
Right.
So then instead of just putting your savings in, then you're starting to put in savings and your rent money and your food money and your everything. And you're like, this is going to be the best. But because it's such a delayed gratification, you're exposing yourself to a very long period of suffering.
Sure.
And again, from there, you then learn about how much bigger deals you can do. And the deals that you can do don't even have to be small multifamilies or single families. You're like,
Right.
oh my God, I can build boutique hotels
True.
or apartment buildings. And then you're like, okay, well then now I don't have anything, but I need to go bigger again. And you're continuing to sacrifice more and more and more to
Yeah.
continue leveling up and up
Right.
and up.
Because
And
you're willing to, because you see the end
100%.
product, you see how it's a 10x return and everything that you're dealing with now, especially you're young. I'm young. If you're someone out
Hmm.
there, every age is just a number,
Mm.
but there's no better time than the present. The time is
Yeah.
going to pass anyway, right? The 5 years from now is going
It's a
to
big
happen,
one.
whether you start doing it today or not.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
no, yeah, whatever it
Yeah.
has to be to make those small sacrifices now, because I think it also helps when you have a first couple deals that do work and
Yeah.
hey, this can work. It's pretty basic math. You don't have to be a mathematician. You don't have to have gone
Mm.
to college for economics to be able
Hmm.
to analyze a deal. There's so many
You need to
tools.
have one of these.
Right.
Phone. That's about it. I apologize about the
The
noise.
pocket supercomputer, yeah, we have access to so many resources.
Hmm.
You can find the answers to
Yep.
anything. You
100%.
going for it.
Yep. I would also say it's privilege problems as well. So, I mean, and I talk about the concept of privilege problems a lot. And it's what is your problem today and what is the problem that you want tomorrow? For instance, it might be today that you're like, oh, I'm suffering because I put my life savings into this house. But then the problem that you want in a year from now is, oh, my tenants suck.
Right.
But the fact that your tenants suck means that you've got a built property that's paying you in
Yes.
some way, shape, or form. But then your next problem needs to be, bigger and better, and,
Yes.
and it continues to go. But that also, it's weird. Suffering's the reward in a weird, messed up kind of way. And that's kind of, you just want privileged problems. They just tend to get
Sure,
bigger
it's
and better.
true. Yes, you want your problems to evolve. They will evolve. And I think, yeah, there is a bit of masochism in real estate investing. You got to love the pain. You got to love it. I think that big why, that big reason why you're doing it, what money, building wealth, you're like any short-term suffering is worth it at this point. So Tyler, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and what types of deals you're focusing on, and maybe dive in a little bit to what's coming up next for you.
For sure. To put it in a nutshell, all I'm doing now is more suffering and more good problems. But no, we have continued just to move up the chain as we've started to learn more and understood more and got more experience under our belt. And we're currently building luxury boutique resorts in Latin America with plans to expand into Southeast Asia. And then we're at third phase, North and South America. And it's something that sort of encompasses everything that we are and everything that we enjoy, which is traveling, enjoying nice things, meeting and bonding with great people, and having everything that we need at our fingertips. So we're building places that they have your lodging, but they've got gym, sauna, ice bath, podcast room, recording studios, pools, meeting rooms, everything. And it's all yours. So this isn't a shared space either. So it's very exciting because I'm my own customer.
Yes, I know. And how fun to work on beautiful things in exotic places. And yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. What about you? What are you working on right now?
Oh, that's so sweet of you to ask. I've got quite a lot going on. Building a property management company.
Okay.
I also own 2 brick and mortar businesses in my market, a bar and a coffee shop. So working on building the empire.
Okay.
Of course, my real estate team. I've got a team of agents that handles all the residential side, and then I'm working with commercial and investment buyers and sellers. So it's a ton of fun right now.
Yeah. Hospitality stores, coffee, but you hate free time.
I talk about being a masochist. I grew up in the restaurant industry. And so when I became, it's like that classic evolution of bartender to real estate agent, then to real estate investor, and now to bar owner. And that's where we have our real estate meetups. I'm really big on networking and collaboration, especially my focus is commercial investment real estate, hyper local. I'm very invested in my town, my community where I'm from. I want to see stable, positive economic growth. And so how I can support that is by putting those people together, the buyer and the seller, putting that deal together, helping bring businesses into our area, encouraging people to invest. I think that especially when you're doing something and it's working, it's so fun to share that with other people and say, come on in, bring us in. Are you guys at Nova House looking to expand your team, or are you're looking for investors to buy in?
Investors are your team. I would argue they're probably their most important team member, but we are always looking to expand. So we're currently doing a $40 million raise right now, which is a Reg D 506C offering. And that will be for our Latin America fund, which will include 12 properties. So we've got eight of those are in Costa Rica, with plans to expand for the last 4 into Colombia and Panama. So yeah, we're always open to accredited investors and family offices, RIAs, people like this. And then on the actual team side of it, we are always open to experienced operators, whether it comes from development, whether it comes from operations of resorts, high-end luxury villas, especially just the high-end service market is what we're always looking for, because the service level from a 3-star to a 4-star is pretty different. But the service level from a 4-star to a 5-star is 10x what it is from a 4-star. And it takes a different skill set of person, a whole range of different things. So we're always on the lookout.
That's wonderful to know. I think that's it's the highest level that you can kind of achieve. It's basically perfection. And
Right.
yes, and people are willing to pay for perfection and
Yeah.
are willing to pay for that extra level of service. That's absolutely what we found in even the micro level, in the small, just restaurant coffee experience. Even myself as a real estate agent, people are appreciating levels of service. And when you've got a great team, you can deliver service in really well, especially if you're all working towards
100%.
that
Yeah.
same level. So I love,
Craving fans every day.
yeah, I'm
above and
excited
beyond.
to book. I'm going to be a customer for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, we're excited. We're excited to have you. You can record in our studio. It can
Oh
be
my goodness,
yours.
that would be so much fun. Oh my gosh. So
We'll
so
have to
Tyler, what
we'll
is
get your name engraved on one of the
oh my
door. You can claim one of them. You'd be like, that property in Santa
goodness,
Teresa, that's mine. I was the
that's
first to
mine.
record there.
Okay, perfect. I love that. Anywhere I can brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Tyler, this will be in the show notes, but how can people reach out to you? What's the best way to find you and connect, learn more?
Best way is very intimately via my email, which is tyler@thenovahouse.com. And that is the Nova House is spelt funny. So it is spelt TheNovaHaus. So the Nova House.
Yes.
Or you can just get in contact with us at our website, which is www.thenovahouse.com. Socials, we are everywhere. I'm not even going to drop it because you don't need to look past my name to find it.
Nova House, follow you on all the socials.
Yeah. So we're everywhere.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see the properties that come on. And it was wonderful to have you on the show today, Tyler.
I appreciate it. You're a
love
great
to have you
host.
again in the future. Oh, thank you so much.
You're very genuinely inquisitive, and I like that a lot. That's the single quality of a good host.
Well, it's again that bartending experience.
Yeah, okay.
Coming back into play.
Yeah.
It's good. And I love interviewing folks that are coming from different niches and doing something different. It's so interesting to me to learn more about. That's the beauty of real estate. There's so many avenues. There's something for everybody, and there's definitely plenty of work to be done.
Yeah. No, well, I look forward to keeping in touch and seeing where this goes, because I don't know enough about you right now other than some of the deals you've got going on. So it'll be fun.
Let's do it. It sounds like a date.
I will have to run that past my partner. I don't know that she will call it a date, but yes, we will catch up.
It's real estate. They get it. All right, Tyler, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for listening. This is the Real Estate Investing Failures to Fortunes podcast. I'm your host, Kate Berry, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Real Estate Investing Failures to Fortunes podcast. If you enjoyed today's stories and insights, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us. Remember, your journey in real estate is a marathon, not a sprint. Embrace the failures, learn from them, and turn them into your stepping stones to success. I'm Kate Berry, and until next time, keep hustling, stay inspired, and keep turning those failures into fortunes. Happy investing.